With promotion and relegation on the horizon in USL, we wanted to expand our conversation from last week about which teams have their sights set on USL Premier. And if we're going to go down the list to the American Third Division to USL League One, there's a lot of new teams and quite a wide variance of perceived ambitions. So we're going to go through USL League One and which team is Premier minded and which ones might have that in the future there. So we're going to kind of evaluate the ambition rankings based on maybe their current stadium size, what that can move up to if needed, the size of their support, and of course, some of their results in their short history for most of these clubs.
So a lot of this is really just about mentality, right? Because and when we talked about the USL Championship sides that we thought, the clubs that we thought might be candidates for USL Premier, lots of the comments were things like, why does it matter? What's your stadium size? This club is in this position. This club is in that. But again, a lot of that was based on, here's what we know right now about the standards that apply. We don't know if those standards will change. We can't know if those standards would change because we're not in those meetings, if they are happening. And we hope they are, around what the professional league standards will look like. What we can say is there are a couple of things here that make some clubs look more ready to be first division teams in American soccer than other clubs. In USL League One, what is interesting is I think there is a gamut here of clubs that there are clubs that are certainly ambitious that started in League One for their own particular reasons. A lot of that has to do with the entry costs, right? The expansion fees, the level of spending on your roster, things like that. When you have a group of investors who maybe don't have a ton of money and are being a little cautious, some of it's about market size. Well, it just doesn't feel like maybe we should be that big, Rob, right?
Yeah, I was going to say right now, the entry point of this league without the merit-based system is the buy-in level and capacity and the budget and the environment that you're existing in. So I think a lot of these teams make sense that they are here right now, but I think they're, like you said, a wide gamut of what the ceiling is for each of these guys.
Some of them are testing the waters. Some of them are so new. In fact, the very first one here, which we can start with, is AC Boise. So new, with an idea, a hope, a dream. But what I respect about what Brad Stith and AC Boise have done there, and certainly they look like a club primed to do bigger things, is they said, okay, we think we can do this. We think it's going to be great, but we're not going to get cocky, right? We're not going to go, we're going to straighten to USL Championship. And like, you kind of have to pick your lane depending on a couple of things: your market, your stadium situation, your investment, the initial response. These things are all part of the mix when it comes to these clubs. AC Boise has blown the doors off it in their first season, right? And I know that they are out there on social media retweeting certain people's comments about promotion and relegation because they've gotten their 7,000 out in their stadium, and excitement in Boise and the surrounding area is very high. And I'm not trying to rain on any parades, Rob, but it's year one. And there are plenty of examples in American soccer where a team came charging out of the gates and everything was great in year one. And then you look up a couple years later and you're like, oh no, what happened?
It was a great rollout, and there was a lot of excitement for the new shiny thing, but it hadn't yet integrated into that community's like routine, right? That's what would lead me to believe, or maybe they didn't get the results they needed to keep the attention fixated on coming out to the park every night. But AC Boise, first year as a pro club, leading USL League One in attendance, averaging over 7,000. They're at capacity. I think I'll have to look through some of my search histories, but I believe there's already, like, in the back of their mind, there was expansion thoughts. And then if you guys dig into, we actually know more about this club than most of these that we're going to review, because we did a countdown to kickoff and we had officials and club representatives and even supporters, some of those who became ultras after our stories of, like, this club that was cooking it up for quite a many years and were very intentional. And it seems from the outside, at least, that their plan to roll out and their debut year is going exactly at
Look, let's be clear, by the way, and we're not gonna look at the PLS for this conversation, because I don't want this conversation to be about stadium capacity and metropolitan area population. I don't want it to be about that.
It's notable, though. It's notable to see how their ceiling is.
It's worth noting, because the strength of your business matters towards your ambition. And what we're saying here is, let's imagine a world in which USL, when they get there, split the championship, move 12, 14 clubs into the Premier Division, right? And look, but we know that there's enough clubs between the championship and the Premier Division to basically make two leagues. You could also imagine some League One clubs, depending on the jockeying that happens, going, you know what, we want to be a USL Championship team. We just want to move up when we establish the pyramid, right? Which is, you're applying for that place, right? When we talk about USL Premier, we know that there are 3 clubs that have actively applied for USL Premier. I don't know what that means, because it's not transparent. This is not a government body that has to tell us what application looks like. There's no form on a web page. It's just, they've said we've applied, which basically means they tell the league office, we want in. Like, we want into the USL Premier when it starts. Detroit City's not on that list. We don't think Detroit City wants to be a USL Premier team on the first day. Of course they do, right? But it's a matter of getting there. So if this debate is about, this discussion is about ambition, this is about, obviously, which of these clubs feel like the kind of teams that are really going to make a run at getting promoted, right? When the pyramid is formed, whether that's from championship to Premier, because they go up because they have that ambition on day one and they apply for a second division spot, or they stay in the third division and the USL pyramid allows them to go, we're going to go win the third division so we can move up, Rob.
Yeah. Who's in the mix for a double promotion? If
there you go,
that
sure,
becomes a thing. So starting off, do you want to categorize these guys as a definite promotion candidates, promotion prospect, and then maybe not a candidate as it stands? Like,
and again, I want people, I also want people to know that we're not like you can go read John Morrissey's work and follow the people that are talking about the season as it's unfolding in USL League One. That's a factor in imagining a future in which these teams are getting promoted. Well, we're kind of taking that out of this, because so much is going to change between now and when we get to that moment of there's an actual promotion on the line. So AC Boise is absolutely one of the top teams in terms of ambition in League One, and they are a candidate in my mind to go up as soon as that promotion and relegation system is enacted.
Yeah, I agree with you there. This is probably the easiest one, leading the league in attendance in their first year. They have a great situation there with their venue, and it seems to be they are entertaining their fans there in Boise and sitting in 5th spot in their debut year. And then one thing, before we get deep into the team by team thing, one thing that came to mind as you were talking about relegation being online, would this whole interim period be a lot more interesting if it was like they set a date and it was like maybe a cumulative results over the years leading into the promotion relegation system?
But why do you think they haven't done something like that, Rob?
Well, it comes back to the press conference thing and all that. There's more questions than answers.
It comes back to, we have this plan we've put out into the world, but we're really not sure if we're ready to like there's so many, like, that would be my guess. And I'm not really even mad at USL, right? I'm not, there are some things I don't like about the way anything in American soccer works, and USL is not, they're as open to those criticism as anybody, obviously. They're still a corporate, like, they're still acting in their own business interests. And I definitely think I would rather them keep things close to the vest and have a solid plan and get this thing up and running ready on day one when they hit the button to have it work, than jump ahead, make a bunch of big claims, which they kind of did for a little while, and not really. Like, right now they have no plan to back it up, and that's not a great look. Like, we haven't seen anything substantive That's like, here's how our promotion system is going to work, and our relegation system is going to work, and it's going to be 3 up, 3 down, or it's going to be points accumulation, and it's going to happen over the course of 5 years. Remember, we talked about this, right? You're populating your first division. Okay, great. Are you going to have relegation in year 1? Probably not, right? You're just going to have promotion maybe if clubs want to go up. And again, there's also the work to be done, which is kind of where we are, which of these clubs can move up? Right? Which one have the business stability to move up? The contract on a stadium, owning their own stadium, revenue streams, all that stuff. Anyway, okay, let's go. Okay. So Boise, all right, so yes.
I've put Boise, our first team, into the definite promotion candidate category. Okay. Moving on to another first-year team, AV Alta, Antelope Valley out there in California.
Yeah, they have done something very cool in Antelope Valley. What's this?
One of my favorite interviews when we had the representative from there. The catchphrase of "We're nobody's farm team."
We're nobody's farm team. Yeah, that's a good one. I think you kind of have to put them in a pretty ambitious category here, Rob. I mean, this is a team that when they turn the key on Pro Rel, I think is going to be making a bunch of noise about how they want to go up. How they want to go up to that next level. Again, trying not to make it about stadium size and things like that. They're in that middle range, right? And I don't think that they're playing in Lancaster Municipal Stadium in Lancaster, California. So clearly, not their building they can just do stuff to. But I think that, this is a team that I think is going to want to be pretty ambitious from day one and has talked it up, right? Like you mentioned that interview, that this is a team when we say, what about Pro Rel? They're like, yeah, we're totally in on this. Like we are ready to go to try to get promoted.
All right, so good, hot start. So our first 2 teams falling into the promotion candidate category. Moving into our third side here in USL League 1 ambition rankings, Charlotte Independence.
No,
not an ambitious team, because one of the main things I remember about Charlotte Independence was that they self-relegated, right?
They did. They self-relegated. There's some people who are very up to speed on some of the interesting ownership quirks of this team and their history, and some of the stuff that's happening as Carolina Ascent, I think, is also connected to this team. So, it's really hard to imagine that and I believe this is one of those situations, Rob, where you have a senior team, a professional team attached to what is mostly a business around youth soccer. So when you have that, it's really because, and it's not to say you can't have both on some level. And obviously youth soccer it should be a way to funnel players up to your first team. And, there's a business there with developing players and then selling them on and things of that nature. But it doesn't seem as though in this case, what we've got in Charlotte Independence is that kind of idea. Instead, this feels like there's a youth club. They've got a first division team. That team predates Charlotte FC of MLS, obviously, who came in over the top of them. Hard to imagine them putting the money in necessary to kind of, let's go get promoted. Ambition pretty low. Maybe happy where they are, like Jack said, is the right category for them.
Not as it stands for Charlotte Independence. All right, 4th team up. Controversial one, Chattanooga Red Wolves SC.
Ooh, well, I mean, you consider the work they've done. I mean, again, if we're picking sides, then I would be on the other side of the Chattanooga divide, I think, most of the time. But I think you got to put them in the ambition category, right? The hoping to be promoted, the working to be promoted group.
According to Backhield's attendance tracker, Chattanooga Red Wolves are currently averaging 1,400 this year.
Yeah, that's not good. That's certainly not good. I mean, again, we as said in the chat, and I agree with this. If we're talking about if you're USL, you cannot have it both ways. You can't say, well, you can get promoted if your attendance is a certain number. Like that's not how it's supposed to work, right? So if Chattanooga Red Wolves put the money in on their player roster and they win the league or they do whatever it takes per USL to get promoted, shouldn't matter what their attendance is, right? Shouldn't. And maybe that move up a division bumps their attendance. Now you do like generally speaking, you should worry that means their business. And I'm not saying, again, people who are talking Chattanooga on the other side of Chattanooga, the other side of that divide probably don't care. But if you just generally care about the health of American soccer teams, spending a lot of money to get promoted and then not getting promoted typically leads to a bad result thereof.
Yeah, I agree with you there. So should I put them in the medium, the promotion prospect category?
I would say yes, only because the very existence of that club represents a certain kind of ambition.
Just the fact that they exist?
Yeah, just the fact that they decided somebody came in and said, we want to put a team in Chattanooga where there's already a team that's established itself, but we think there's room or we think we can be the team. It's a mentality and an attitude thing. And yes, again, like, I don't think they will have what it takes necessarily to go from League One up levels, but I don't think you can say that they won't want to do that.
All right, moving right along, we have as our 5th USL League One team to rate their ambition, Corpus Christi FC down there in Texas. The Sharks, they kept their Shark moniker from their USL 2 days. The most significant note about them, we've talked to their coach before and their club. They definitely seem excited, ambitious to be at this level, but some of the planning, there's question marks because they're planning to build a 5,000 person stadium, but about like 2 weeks into the season or so, early in and around the kickoff of the season, they said, actually, the stadium's not complete. We're going to be playing in a temporary venue. So they do have the ambition to build a new sports complex, including a stadium. But the planning was questionable because they were trying to be in that stadium this year, and they had to push that deadline way back.
Yeah, this does feel like a club that got out over its skis, right? And then you have, I think there were some questions around the ownership, and I don't know how funded that ownership is. And, I'm, again, not to make it about market, because if you win, you win. If you get promoted, you get promoted. But it's not as though Corpus Christi itself is sort of this latent market with the money that's going to come in and push this club forward and make them really ambitious. I'm not going to say they won't want to be promoted, Rob. They'll be they'll compete like anybody else. But if you're talking about putting the resources in that it's going to take when you compare them to some of these other clubs, I don't see that in Corpus Christi.
Well, they're trying to build a complex that includes a soccer stadium, multiple soccer fields, a go-kart track, and all sorts of other things. Anyone down in that area, I'd love to see any pics if like all this stuff is getting built or if this is fantasy. But so should we put them in the prospect category because they have these big plans, or would you just say not as it stands because we haven't seen it realized yet?
I would say this is a very much a show me situation, and I just haven't seen enough there.
And just for results, put that in context. They started off a little tough, but they're at a mid-table right now in USL League One.
Jack disagrees, says that they're pretty ambitious down there. Again, I think this is a relative thing too, and maybe we should just kind of hold off on fully judging Corpus Christi for that. But I look at some of these other teams that we're going to get to, Rob, and we should, we want to make sure we get to everybody. And there are expansion teams as well in League One that we should consider. And I think, I don't know, like, are they there at the same level as a Fort Wayne? Who's next?
Yeah, Fort Wayne talking about building delays, but kind of tackling that situation in a completely different way. Fort Wayne FC, hopefully we'll get to see that stadium here in October and visit there ourselves. But they're playing in the stadium as it's being built around them. And they found some success on the field after having to play away from home for a number of years. And just like Corpus Christi before them, a USL League 2 team making that jump from elite amateur to the professional ranks. And, it's hard to say that they're not ambitious with building a, brand new shiny soccer stadium there.
Yeah. And like, I do think that this is true of some of these other teams as well. So I'm not saying this is unique to Fort Wayne. But obviously the League 2 runway right? Let's have a club. Obviously they've rebranded, so it's a completely different look for the team, but just having a team, understanding, learning what that means to operate a team in Fort Wayne, tapping into whatever community connections you can make during that period, then launching Fort Wayne FC as a professional club. As you said, some delays and some stuff with the stadium, with Ruoff Stadium, but clearly top of the class for that level of soccer in America. Like, undoubtedly one of the best small soccer stadiums that we'll see in this list. That, to me, and again, like, I don't have the individual net worth of everybody on the list of their owners, but I think if you talk about connecting to Ruoff and having that name, local name on the building and things like that, 100% this is a team that screams, we want to go get promoted. We are fully engaged in what this will be.
Yeah, and if you want to learn more about Fort Wayne, we have an interview with their comms director out there as well. We learned about how they put together Friendly, the Gorilla mascot, and then also notable that their stadium is being all privately funded by ownership there. So
right,
notable there for that club.
That kind of, like, that's a give and take thing, right? That's good. Like, we don't really want public money building stadiums unless it's truly helpful to the community. But if the ownership group is financing the stadium, that means the ownership group probably has less spending power around the team itself on the field. Now, you need
they're a very young team, and that could change though once the Pro Rel is activated.
Yeah, that could change. Absolutely, that could change. And by the way, one thing that we don't know, because we haven't seen it, is how the addition of promotion as a possibility impacts the general quality of player that some of these clubs are able to attract at the salary levels that they spend, right? Like, just to say, like, if you have an ambitious player they might come in, or there might be players who would typically be championship level players who'd say, I want to go play for an ambitious team in League One because I can help them get promoted, or that's something I want to experience. And I just a knock-on effect to what this might be.
One last note on Fort Wayne. Do you think that their new rebranded looks like the Smith & Wesson logo?
I don't think about the Smith & Wesson logo very often, Rob. That's not my bag. I'm not one of those. I don't have that thing on me, is what I would say, is generally my position.
Although I think they'll be all right. They're getting sued, but those are the sort of things that I feel like they could be lawyered away.
Probably. I didn't realize Smith & Wesson was so protective of their trademarks, but yeah, maybe that's
one of the things in the Morning Kickaround Discord server, because this subject was discussed a couple weeks ago in the USL thread in the Discord server, which you can get access to by becoming a channel member. Shout out to our ultras. But apparently there's other logos that look a lot similar who haven't been sued. So it's a little bit of a strange case there. But as a gun guy, it does not look like it. So maybe they're just trying to get a buyout or something like that. Maybe Smith & Wesson's so we're getting conflicting reviews here that it does or it doesn't look like.
It's in the eye of the beholder, Rob. It's in the eye of the beholder.
All right. With that in mind, I've put Fort Wayne FC in our definite promotion candidate category. Moving on to another Midwest team, Forward Madison. The Flamingos, are they a promotion candidate, a prospect, or not a candidate as it stands?
I would say that everything about this club, how it's been run, obviously they made a splash because of their aesthetics, which, can feel like cheap heat if you don't use it, if you don't lean into it, if you don't build a foundation based on that. But I think this is 100%. I mean, we can talk about Breese Stevens Stadium. Somebody's mentioning, it feels like here it is, American Groundhopper. Great community engagement. Stadium is great for what it is. They could be a USL Championship, but USL Premier is a stretch. Now, obviously, he's talking about things like the stadium, which seats 5,000 people, and it's just an historic building in Madison. It's 100 years old. It looks like a lower league ground in England, except for that curved section, which I guess was maybe baseball at one point.
Yeah, it used to be baseball.
So, they are not, they're not glitzy and glamorous from their facilities perspective in that way. And yet they have built so much there that absolutely Forward Madison is a candidate for this. Absolutely, they're going to be ambitious. Absolutely. Like, I don't know if somebody's going to come in and throw $10 million at the problem to make Forward Madison a championship team and gain promotion. But I think absolutely they're the kind of team that is smart enough how they run their club that you will look at them and go, yep, that's a candidate.
As we're going through these teams, I almost feel like some of these USL League One teams might be more game for the pro rel system and kind of like biding their time for it to kick in than a lot of the teams in the championship level, because a lot of those teams have existed in that second division level as it stands for quite some time. I feel like there's more upside for the pro rel system for the clubs here. But
well, I mean, that's because of the spend, right? That's because of the investment it takes to be successful, stable, however you want to describe it at this level. Like, it doesn't take a ton. Like, I mean, it's more money than I have, obviously, but it doesn't take so much to launch a USL League. This is why USL League One exists, Rob. It's why they created this, and applaud USL for creating this division and giving these ownership groups and these towns, these places, the opportunity to enter American professional soccer at this level. Like, this is what we mean by dot the map, right? If your standard is always, you got to have, 100, 2 million, 100, 300 million, 400 million, $500 million to get into professional soccer in America, well, then that's going to limit the pool of people who have the wherewithal to start a team. But if you are able to say it takes $2.5 million to launch a team, okay, we can put that together in Madison. We can put that together in Fort Wayne, Indiana. So, this has been good. Now, again, what is going to be interesting is as you add promotion to the mix, relegation's on the table too for the championship and premier teams. Obviously, wouldn't be, we don't expect for USL League One teams. But as you add promotion to the mix, what does that do for how these clubs operate? Suddenly, are you attracting more investment? Suddenly, do the owners that are already there thinking we got to spend more money to try to go up? Or are they just thinking we do what we do, and if we win promotion, great, we build our business from there?
Moving on to our next team, Greenville Triumph, the club that has my favorite ever rendering. They've just, I don't know if it's completely finished, but they're playing in their new soccer-specific stadium. Where do we put Greenville? Man,
I think look, they've got the stadium done, or they are finishing. They did a stadium, right? Okay, it's weird and medieval or whatever, Renaissance themed and all that stuff. And there's an AI rendering that Rob can't get over with the goalkeeper cut in half or whatever it is. But
floating goalie with one leg.
Yeah, I think Greenville has to be pretty solidly a candidate to go up at some point, right? Like they're going to be in the mix. Like there's, I see a comment about the size of the population in the Greenville area. My mom lives in the Greenville area. I see the explosion. She's been there for like 8 years. She complains about the traffic, and I'm like, you're one of the traffic. What are you talking about? You help make the traffic. All these people are coming down here, and I'm like, you're one of the people. Anyway,
everybody wants to be the last person that moves to a place.
I know, that is so true. They're like, no, Greenville's closed. Okay, we're done now. You can't come down here because I liked it before. Now I don't like it. Yeah. So room to expand. The stadium is part of this. Absolutely. I think just everything about Greenville, and look, they've been champions of this division. They played some good soccer. They made the best of what they had stadium-wise before this all came together in Malden. I do wonder about that, right? And staying relevant in their marketplace, which is relevant to their business, which is relevant to their spending, which is relevant to their ability to get promoted, but 100%, they're a candidate.
So promotion candidate or promotion prospect? You putting them in the highest tier of ambition here?
Yeah, I think so. I think so. Do you disagree?
Just because I think they'd have to do a lot of upgrades to make it a bigger stadium, but I don't have a hard reason to push against the reasons that you laid out there. I just didn't know there was like necessarily a groundswell. They're in the bottom third of the league as it stands right now. They're attracting like 2,500 or so to their games. So I put them in the prospect.
For sure, there's room for improvement across everything. And maybe maybe they haven't bedded in with the stadium yet to kind of figure out what that looks like. I don't know. They are relatively established by American soccer standards, right? Do they feel like they're roots in the ground, they're never going anywhere. No, that's that. I wouldn't say that, but I think that the kind of club that you can see making one or two tweaks, finding the right combination of players, and like at least being in the conversation, wanting to be in that conversation and doing some things. This is what ambition is: the willingness to take some risks to get the reward. And I think Greenville probably has that attitude.
Thanks to tuning into part 1 of this USL discussion. Be sure to check out the Morning Kickaround video feed for part 2.